You catch me every time. I'm looking at my phone, seeing if we went live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday Night Flock Talk. I'm Robin Sullivan from the Leather Elves, and I am here with Jack Pine from High Redbird. How are you, Jack?
I'm doing all right. I actually wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the animation of the falling leaves. Um, Earlier today, I was looking. Karen Anderson posted a picture of all the beautiful color that she's getting in her leaves, and I just thought, "Huh, that's nice." As our air is still half humidity, half flying insect, um, as it will be until mid-January.
You know, when I was getting dressed tonight before the live stream, I was like, "Oh, I might not be able to wear short sleeves anymore." How do you feel about that?
I regularly wear shorts on Christmas Day.
Oh, no, no, no. Um, so we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So, Jack, do we have reminders? We always
Yeah,
have
so
reminders.
actually, it's kind of fun for us to talk about weather, but that actually does tie into tonight's session because we're going to talk about preparing for natural disasters. But before we get into that, we do want to remind you guys, if you have not already liked the Leather Elves page on Facebook, you want to make sure that you do that. We do these live streams every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, live from the Leather Elves Facebook page. We want you to go there because then you can be a part of the conversation. You can type in any questions you have in the chat. If you have suggestions or expertise, we have a lot of people that watch who have decades of experience, and we value and appreciate that, and we want you to be a part of that discussion. So please like the Leather Elves page on Facebook. You'll get a notification every time we start a live stream. And you'll also get notifications whenever, Robin over at the Leather Elves is doing maybe a fun sale, maybe a fun project or event. I know there's a lot of those coming down the pipeline, so you definitely want to make sure you don't miss out. Now, if you have something else going on and you can't sign on for the live stream, we'll be sad. We will miss you. But you can always catch up. You can go to the High Redbird YouTube channel. All of the sessions that we have done at this point, Robin and I have been doing these for over a year. All of those sessions are going to be available in a playlist that you guys can watch. So if you've missed any sessions, if you want to go back and watch them, because a lot of them are going to have information that you may want to refresh yourself on throughout the year. Maybe you want to refresh yourself on it as we're covering a different topic that is related. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that. Now, Robin and I both have Instagram accounts as well. So you can follow the Leather Elves and High Redbird on Instagram. Robin, we both post information on what our coming sessions are going to be. So you'll know what exciting topic we're going to cover. Robin posts a lot of really fun photos and videos of animals with different types of enrichment. And since I am competitive and have to beat her, I post a lot of photos of baby animals, which are significantly more adorable.
I can't
Significantly more.
compete. I can't compete with baby animals. I just can't.
You do post a lot of really fun enrichment ideas, photos, and videos. So I don't think you can compete with baby animals, but you do come pretty close.
But look, I have cool
um,
toys, so hey. But one of the
you do
things,
have a lot
Jack,
of really fun toys.
when you were talking about all the playlist on your YouTube, on High Redbird YouTube channel, and we've got them archived on the Leather Elves page under videos. And I know that a lot of the people who tune in every Friday night are on different groups on Facebook. And I find myself more and more referring to live streams when people are asking questions on Facebook pages. It's like, oh, my bird, I want to do a new cage setup for my bird, or I want to do, some new enrichment to address feather plucking. Oh, wait, we did a whole session on feather plucking and you all, chimed in, you all had comments and great ideas. So I would suggest, if you guys are comfortable doing it, refer them back to the live streams, because sometimes, there may be something in there that they can use in their situations.
Yeah. And again, all of those videos are going to be super easy to share from either the Leather Elves Facebook page. There is a High Redbird Facebook group. And of course, the YouTube channel for High Redbird. All of that information is going to be there. Now, Robin and I did want to make sure that you all know about Seattle Parrot Expo as well. I know one of the speakers who will be there, and she's all right.
She's fabulous. I heard she was wonderful.
Oh, look, butterflies. No,
Butterflies.
Seattle Parrot Expo really is a wonderful event. In the past, Robin and I have both had the pleasure of presenting information for Seattle Parrot Expo. We know the people who put it together are dedicated to the future of aviculture, dedicated to providing optimum welfare for people and their birds. So if you'd like to find out more about Seattle Parrot Expo, you can visit www.flightclubfoundation.org. The information is there if you would like to attend in person or if you would like to attend virtually. The benefit of attending virtually, you don't have to book a hotel, you don't have to book airfare, and you can attend a conference, get that education, get that interaction with fellow parrot lovers, all from the comfort of your couch in your living room. So I definitely recommend that you guys check that out. Oh, and you wanted to say something about the bird show.
Yes, the National Bird Show is coming up in November. In case you are scheduling you're doing your calendar and all the cool bird stuff you want to do, the National Bird Show is something I highly suggest. It's a great place to learn about all different kinds of birds, to see what a true bird show looks like. It's really, really well done. And they're referring to it as your show of shows. So I want to, if you're in that area or you're planning on being in that area in November, you can go to www.ncbs.org and look into the National Bird Show. Well worth it. So, yes.
No, I think, we've talked about different conferences, different events. Robin and I always encourage you guys to try to explore different aspects, learn in different ways, because I really think that all the different factions of aviculture can learn a lot from each other. And thank you very much, Nick. I don't know what we would do without Nick keeping us on track. We do have Parrot Festival that will be coming up. It'll be the last full weekend in January. So this coming year, it'll be January 28th, 29th, and 30th. It'll be a fun conference. We will have both in-person and virtual attendance available. And registration will be open very, very, very soon. Very soon. I still have hair, so it's coming.
It'll happen. It will. So I think we need to get started. As Jack said, we're going to talk about dealing and preparing for dealing with a natural disaster with a focus on prep, survival, and recovery. And tonight we are lucky enough to have with us Michelle Carollo. Michelle is the owner of Royal Avian Specialties. Hey, Michelle. And Michelle's recently survived Hurricane Ida, which is listed as the 6th costliest hurricane for the U.S. So if you didn't know that you had made that milestone, Michelle, you have. So, I don't know if congratulations are in order, but, and it, hit Louisiana and then proceeded all the way up to the East Coast. So people were affected by this storm, in so many different ways, in so many different places. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
It's great to see you without the wind blowing and the sun actually shining behind you. So those weren't the pictures we were seeing.
I know. It was some trying times. It was quite scary at times.
But you're okay. The family's okay. The flock is okay, right?
Yes, everyone is fine. We We got electricity last Friday, so that's good. And today it was actually in the 70s, which was really nice because prior to the storm, we were breaking over 100. After the storm, it was very muggy and hot day. It's a little cooler, so that's good. The mosquitoes are still here, but we're okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michelle, also being on the Gulf Coast, has the same issue that I do, where her air
Yes.
is half humidity, half flying insect.
Yes. Yes.
I got to tell you, so I know talking to Jack and, watching Michelle go through Ida, we don't normally have to deal with that up here in the Northeast, but we got a taste of it with Ida, and I don't think people were prepared. We have a lot of people who listen in from New York. Long Island Parrot Society supports us on Flock Talk, and I know that a lot of them were affected by the storm, and it's something that you don't always plan for. You think, oh, that happens down in the Gulf or that happens in Florida. And for us in the Northeast, we don't prepare for that. We had tornadoes. That doesn't happen.
Right.
So,
Right.
Michelle, as far as preparation's concerned, what would you suggest to people is a way to be, you can never be 100% prepared, but what's a
You
way
can't.
to be prepared? I mean, what would
Well,
you
you
tell
can't.
people?
Well, like you said, you cannot be 100% prepared, but every year hurricane season comes. Or if you live in an area where they have tornadoes, like you said, you know, um, with us, fortunately, most of the time we'll get some sort of 3 days out, maybe even a week out of a storm that's coming. So we have a little bit of time to actually prepare supplies and things that we need for the storm. So and it happens every single year. So why not have your hurricane ready box ready to go each year? Check it out. I mean, June 1st is when it starts for us. And, basically, I make sure that I have ample amounts of food for my parents. I make sure that I have medical supplies because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, a lot of times, if they do have a natural disaster or if they call for an evacuation, I mean, I have so many parrots, it's virtually impossible for me to pick up and leave with them. So I have to make sure that I'm able to take care of them for a week or longer if I need to, because I may not be able to get out. The roads may be closed or the bridges may be down. And you can see some of the pictures that Nick's showing here. I mean, this is a tree that fell. Thank goodness it didn't fall on top of the people's house or their aviary. But I don't think they quite expected the storm to be as bad as it was because they ended up having to go out there in the middle of the storm and pull birds out of an aviary where the winds were 85 miles an hour. I mean, but you could see her aviary there on the side. It could have very well fallen the opposite direction and really caused it could have killed her birds. So, um, one of the things that even if you decide to shelter in place, you have to prepare yourself to be self-sufficient for anything that comes, and that means water, electricity. I think a lot of people didn't realize that without electricity, the pumps of the water stations aren't going to work, and they weren't able to use the water. It's not safe for them, let alone it won't be safe for their animals or their birds. So and I think some of those things started to shock people once the reality came. Hey, wait a minute, I don't have electricity, it's been longer than 24 hours. What am I going to do? And so that's when we started to see a lot of people seeking help. And thank goodness with the donations that we received of food, they were able to come and get that. But as far as preparation, I recommend getting some waterproof Rubbermaid boxes that you can put food in. Freeze dried food is great. The pellets are wonderful to put in there. They're dry. Put it in a high place in your home, and every year check for expiration dates and on the foods and stuff that you have in your storage for your natural disasters. But towels, water, gallons of water are really important. Pillowcases are important. If you have to hurry up and grab your birds out of I'm gonna stop for a second, show you this picture. So this is a Hans macaw that was suffering from heat exhaustion. This was inside someone's home that it's 95 degrees after the storm. The humidity is still at 80-85%. And I was encouraging people, mist your birds, try to get them outside in a shaded area. And this particular person, she's a nurse, she had to go back to work. And when she got home, this is how she found him. And so she was devastated. I mean, he's doing much better now, but that's a scary situation to be in. And people don't realize, oh, they're tropical birds, they'll do fine in the heat. But they don't tolerate the heat very well at all.
No.
Well, and I think an important thing to remember with a lot of birds, as they're up in trees, as they're flying around, they're going to have a lot more air movement. They're going to have a lot more option to get into shade, to bathe if necessary. When we have them in our homes, we don't necessarily give them, or they don't have all the same options that they would in the wild. So it's important that we are able to provide for them in terms of those things. So I wanted to go back real quick. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say along those lines, Jack, I think, we provide everything that our birds need. We provide them food and enrichment and, time out of the cage, time in the cage, whatever that may be. And when a natural disaster occurs, we need to kind of check ourselves as well. Obviously we need to take care of ourselves and the other humans in our flock. And you've got to be aware that you need to still provide those things. It may not be, I'm not going to even say may, it probably will not be at the same level that you're used to. And you can't beat yourself up about it. You do the best that you can, you reach out for help, and you stay calm through the whole thing. I think above all, you need to stay calm because you can panic, but you're not going to be able to take care of anybody that way.
No, and that's true. And the people who we were able to touch with the donations that we were giving, I mean, they were crying and they were just so upset because their birds were starting to pluck. That you could see that they were emotional about what was happening. Their roofs had caved in or came off, or the floodwaters had got all of their food wet and their toys wet. And they just even though they were prepared, or they felt like they were prepared maybe for 2 or 3 days, they didn't realize that the extent of the damage that was going to happen and the infrastructure around them. Still we have pet stores that are still closed. They're not able to open. And I feel like with us, not only did we have the pandemic where we're short on, we also now have a storm where people are they've evacuated, they can't get back because the roads are closed or flooded or torn apart. And so people have no access to the normal things that they could think, oh, I'll just go back to Walmart and get what I need, and it's not there anymore, and people start to panic, and staying calm is extremely important. And I feel like if you're prepared enough and you have enough to take care of your animals, that's the most important part. And the sad reality is some people evacuated and left their birds thinking that they would come back the next day or 2 days later, and they just left enough food and water for 2 days, but then they couldn't get back. So that's not an option either. We say if you're going to choose to evacuate, you need to take all of your animals.
No, and I wanted to bring up, so you had mentioned, and I know for a lot of people not on the Gulf Coast, not experiencing hurricane season, a hurricane preparedness kit may not be something that they are familiar with. But for those of us on the Gulf Coast, it's something we are intimately familiar with. And it's basically all of the supplies that you need because you're not going to be able to get out of your house. You're not going to necessarily be able to go to the grocery store. So one of the things I wanted to point out, you were mentioning like a Rubbermaid container. Um,
Hmm.
that it's a great thing to have all of your materials, your supplies in one location so you know where they are. A good thing is I have found ones that were designed for floods. So they have a gasket on the inside of the lid as well with the latches. So they seal to help protect them from water. When you were mentioning food, I want to make sure people know if you're in a disaster like this, if you're in a disaster where you lose power, if you have a ton of chopped produce in your fridge, that's not going to sustain to feed your birds. Because
It's not.
especially for us, where it gets 90 degrees during the day on the low end of hurricane season, that food's going to ferment and be unusable within a day. So
Yes.
dried pellets, that freeze dried food you were mentioning, I think those are all
Yes.
great options. And
Even
then, yeah,
sprout.
like you were
We
saying,
were,
water.
we were able to sprout. Um, Also, we had some seeds that were available that we feed our birds anyway, but we were able to sprout, and we passed out some of those seeds to be able to do that too, which is great nutrition for your parrots. But yeah, the freeze dried food was perfect because my guys, they like, they like the fresh vegetables and things like that. So it was that was helpful to be able to feed them. And then the pellets, of course. I mean, we were actually, the donation that we received from Shelley's group, um, it was like those oven fresh bites, and it kind of had a variety of different fruits and vegetables and things in it. And the birds they loved it. And the people that we gave it to had never even tried it. So, they were a little nervous about trying it, but from what I understand, they're eating it. When they're hungry, they're going to eat because there was nothing else available.
No,
Um,
absolutely, and I think Jack, you mentioned that the fresh may not is not probably not going to last if you've got it.
right.
If you don't have electricity, there's no way to keep it cool or even at room temperature when it's that hot. And I think one of the things people need to think about is the freeze dried food is like you say, Michelle, is a great substitute for that fresh diet. If you're feeding a completely raw diet or a fresh diet, that may not be possible if you are in a disaster situation. So if you've got those freeze dried, fruits and veggies, that works. Also, Jack and I have talked before about acclimating your bird to a pellet of some sort, so they at least recognize that as a food source. So it's not just, what are you feeding me? What is this? And you're right, they will eat if they're hungry, but at least they are aware that that's something that, can sustain them for a little bit. And I think too, you mentioned the Rubbermaid totes. I think absolutely, up here that's a blizzard kit. It's
Yes.
not a
Well,
hurricane.
and
Um, any disaster, I know Nick is on the West Coast and they're dealing with fires. You need to
yeah.
evacuate. You need to have all that ready to go, which leads to my next point is that having travel carriers, if you are going to have to evacuate, if you're not going to shelter in place, you need to evacuate, have all that together, have your, towel in your crate, have if your birds are on, medication, make sure you've got it to take with you, because when you're evacuating your family, evacuating your animals, you're not going to be able to go through that checklist in your head. It's really,
Yes. And
again, having
and having, if even if you, like you said with the medications, but even if you have medical records for any of your animals, bring that with you as well, because let's say you have to evacuate to another town, and you may not be able to bring your bird somewheres, but you have a vet that would hold them, or someone that would keep and foster them until you're able to get back into your home. Having those medical records with you is important as well. But yes, every bird should have a carrier. Don't think that oh, my bird's not going to fly off, or whatever. We always teach that, but you never know in a situation where everyone is panicking and things are happening all around you, and you think your bird's going to just sit on your shoulder. That may not happen, especially in a different environment. So we wouldn't want them to get lost in the middle of this chaos.
And we know your guys are harness trained, but honestly, if you're leaving like you don't have a choice, you've got to go, you've got to evacuate.
Oh,
Putting that harness on is probably not going to happen. They're going to go in a carrier, and that's just the way it goes. And I think, when you mentioned records, so Leather Elves did a emergency kit, and in it was things you could, things like vet wrap and quick stop and tongue depressors. I mean, things you just might need, but it also had a record folder in it. And it wasn't just, oh, I put my vet records in there. It was, what's this bird's favorite food? What's its favorite kind of enrichment? What's its schedule? Who's its vet? So that, God forbid you end up separated from your animals. Somebody can take that record and still get care for them if they have to.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, that's a wonderful idea. That's exactly. And one of the things you talk about enrichment, we've got a lot of people that have come to visit me, and that's some of the things that they're asking for. They're saying, oh, do you happen to have any extra toys? Like all of my toys got wet, or they're molded, or when my roof caved in or the floodwaters came in, I don't have anything. And being able to have some different items that you can put into those travel carriers or to put into their cages, because now they're in an environment like where it's hot, and they're used to being in the AC, and they see you upset and distressed, and something to keep them focused on what's not happening in the environment, where they're able to detach themselves from that and keep themselves occupied from from plucking or being stressed out and screaming the whole time. So I think enrichment and foraging is extremely important to provide them during this time.
Well, and all of that goes back to the idea of water that we were talking about, because for us in a hurricane, yes, if you lose power, the pumps for water are going to go down, which means you don't get water running out of your lines. Even when that water comes back, it's not necessarily going to be safe to drink. And I think one of the biggest challenges I have seen for people who move to the Gulf Coast, they build their disaster preparedness kit, is the lack of water that they plan for. I was always taught, in order to prepare for this, that you should plan on 1 gallon of water per person per day. So, I see people with a family of 4 that have a single gallon of water. That's not going to cut it. So I think just having that ability to store that water, to have that water readily available, because even if you can get it out of your lines, it's not necessarily clean, safe to feed to your
Not
animals.
safe. It's
No.
not safe.
Julie,
Anytime there's a
no, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, anytime, there is a loss of electricity and those pumps back up, they're always asking for boil water warnings. And it's difficult to boil water when you don't have electricity, right? I mean, you could have a gas stove, but I mean, do you trust it? No,
And your gas stove probably has an electric starter on it anyway. I mean, those are the things that you don't think about when you're like, oh, well, it'll be fine. And Julie brought up an interesting point that I had never thought about. Julie said that there were some sources for water that I hadn't thought about. Oh, no, that's different care. Okay.
For moisture.
Unsalted garbanzo beans, lentils, corn, not water, but moisture. So at least, there's something there. Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of ways around that. So at the farm, we have a 500-gallon drum that is filled. We are ready. It's pressure driven, so that if I have to fill water from that, I can actually run off of that for several days. Obviously, most people aren't going to have room for a 500-gallon drum in case of emergencies. But I have found that the 5-gallon drinks coolers, the ones that is the tall cylinder that has the push button at the bottom, if you fill that with water and put that on a counter, the pressure is going to be perfect for filling up bird water bowls. And I've been able to do that for my birds for several days as well. So you can definitely find containers that work for your setup.
And Georgia just brought up another good point as far as your kit is concerned. You may need to have a health certificate, and just
Yeah.
get one of those, stick it in that record, have it in your disaster kit, have that. It's just a simple folder. It's not, it's not rocket surgery. Where's Diane when I need her? We joke about rocket surgery. There we go. But it's a matter of having all that, that certificate right there. Because again, you want something you can grab on your way out the door, that you don't have to go through 17 different, file cabinet drawers to find, I got to find this one for, this bird, and this one for that bird. And it's just all right there so that you can take it.
I love that Karen has her priorities set. She has a couple of portable propane stoves, a 1-burner for coffee, and a 2-burner for cooking. So at the very least, Karen is going to have coffee. So maybe Karen can be our
evacuate
disaster buddy.
Yeah, I think it's probably safer for Karen to have coffee than not. I'm just saying.
One of the other things too, I wanted to mention, a lot of us think, okay, now my electricity's back on, maybe my water's safe, but the mail wasn't running for a week, for several days too. So, even if I could get online and order something, I know it wasn't going to come on with Amazon. I mean, right now we're still having sporadic deliveries with UPS and FedEx, and so it's going to probably take a good solid month to be able to get anything here quickly again.
And Ray brings up a good point: the batteries, the flashlights, the portable radios. I have one right here. It's a battery, and I charge this ahead of time. And if I know that we're getting a storm, I'll just have this charged so that I can use this if I need to charge my cell phone or if I need to charge something. And you can, use your little pen flashlights. It seems like it's nothing, but when it's pitch black, it's something. It's a little bit of light. So, anything else you guys can think of as far as prep is concerned that we haven't covered?
Well, one of the things too, a lot of my birds are not caged, especially during the daytime. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure, because I knew this storm was coming, they actually stayed in the cage, throughout the duration of the storm, just to keep them safe. Because I didn't know what was going to happen as far as the wind or what if a tree fell on the house, and I wasn't able to get into their room quickly enough. So I wanted to make sure that I placed them in a secure spot that I could easily access them if I had to, and to quickly transfer them out to another area. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and I think that's important too for that kind of stress level that you see with your birds, because we know when it's coming. I mean, there's no question about it. Animals sense way before we do. I mean, we get the information on the news,
Yeah.
And we do have a couple of people asking in the chat about medications and things like that. So yes, we talked about making sure your avian first aid kit, all of those items that you have available, if they are ready, they're up to date. If anything is expired, make sure you replace that. But also, if you have a bird that is on medications, making sure that you have a supply of those medications available and ready to go, because you don't want to be in a position where you're then having to put your animal under physical stress when they're already mentally and emotionally stressed. And even if you do everything right, with the change of everything that is going on, there is going to be stress.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. And I think too, even having those kind of like first aid medications, things like, triple antibiotic ointment, or having the quick stop and those kind of things. And those you should always have on hand. And Shelley, that's a great idea. Hand feeding
Yes.
formula. It's, if all else fails, you can default to the hand feeding formula. And it's just, it feels like a ton of stuff, but I think if you pull it together ahead of time, it's not as overwhelming.
It's not. If you have it,
Yeah.
in that kit. I'm sorry, I have mosquitoes the size of macaws flying on me right now. Sorry. You keep seeing me doing this. Um, but yes, I mean, having those things that put in your freezer, they last a while in the freezer, and if the lights go out for the natural disaster, you can pull it out and start using it. I see Eva said something about extra syringes. Yes, syringe train your parents. That's very important. I mean, if you have to be able to give them something to resuscitate them, as far as a fluid or a formula, you're able to do that without fighting with them to do it. One of the things too, I use the rescue remedy is great to put in their water, Georgia. We do that here as well, and we use the Avian teas. We use the calming teas to help them, and they love it. They receive that very well, and you can kind of prepare them for that before you transport them if you're going to evacuate, or if the storm is coming. Give them something like that to kind of ease the stress.
And that, that's like, you bring up a good point, Michelle, that, prepare for it ahead of time as far as what your birds are used to. Because when you see that hurricane coming, that's awesome. When you see that hurricane coming, it's not going to be, oh, hey, it's time to syringe train you, or, oh, hey, I'm going to teach you how to accept a towel, or I'm going to crate train you. All of those things are off the table. Once you get that news forecast that says that's going to happen, forget it. That's all out the window. If you haven't done it before now, it ain't going to happen.
And again, it's a forecast too. And if you see with some of the pictures that Nick was showing, I mean, it was supposed to hit the coast at a category 4. I mean, they were clocking winds at 180 miles an hour. And if you see the one that you have here, see where the red line goes. I mean, that was supposed to be a straight line from Homa, but you can see here towards the middle of the night, that storm was headed to New Orleans. And, we were feeling the effects of it. And in the east side of that storm, you could see that's where all of the winds, the rain. I mean, we had some significant downpours and rain, and you could see the little parrot in the circle. That's where my house was. So, when that storm, the eye of that storm was off the coast, so you could see the deep purple and red. I mean, those things that was wind and rain that were hitting here, and I think it was unexpected by a lot of people of how dangerous the storm was going to be, and they're very unpredictable. I mean, the forecasters do a great job, but it kind of has a mind of their own once it gets on land.
Absolutely. So we're prepped, and then what? I mean, where do you go from there, Michelle? You've got your stuff together. You're all ready. You're watching the news. How do you survive?
Well, I'm going to have to thank the bird community for helping us survive, because I feel like the connection that I have with all of you, the listeners, and you, Robin, and Jack, and Georgia, and Chyla, AFA, and Shelley. I mean, everyone reached out to me. I was trying to educate people as the storm was coming, but at some point I lost communication. For you guys to say, hey, wait a minute, a fellow bird lover needs some help. It wasn't just me, it was hundreds of people in the area that needed help. And I felt like once I got myself situated, I needed to help everyone else that was out there, and just getting to know people. I mean, this lady had a baby macaw that she was trying to get formula for, and she didn't know where to turn and what to do. And so the networking, I feel, is extremely important, and it's going to Parrot Festival and learning and meeting new people, and going to AFA, or going to the National Bird Show and meeting fellow bird people that really care, and say, hey, how can I help you in a time of disaster, and really doing whatever they can to get food and supplies here, um, was absolutely amazing. Like, so that kind of took the worry off of me, because I mean, I had my stuff that was prepared, but as much as I love birds, I knew these people needed it too. And I mean, I was sharing the stuff that I had until the resources came to me, to be able to distribute. So I think the avian community is absolutely amazing. We are a special breed, and we take care of our own. And I will forever be thankful for those people that reached out, even if it was just prayers, because I mean, we were all just praying that we would get through this, and we'd have a sunshiny day and be eaten by mosquitoes again. But it's without you guys and without this community, you can't do it by yourself. You just can't. And no matter if it's a natural disaster here, or if it's in New York or California with the fires, I mean, we all need to stick together and be prepared, and be ready to pull the trigger when something happens. So it's almost like having a storm shelter for the birds, and being able to hit the ground running, and make those contacts in the different communities, to get the resources to.
And I know I can tell you, I was getting calls from different places, and people as far away as Washington State were getting phone calls. How do I hook up with it? What do I need to do? This person reached out, and Facebook can be a scary place, and we've got Frank, who tunes in every Friday night and ends up in Facebook jail on a regular basis. But this is a positive use for Facebook. We love laughing at Frank's jokes, and sometimes wrinkling the brow at some of his comments. But I can tell you that I know that if I had to, I could reach out to Frank through Facebook, and yeah, we're several states away, but he'd help me figure it out. And I know that all of you have banded together. There are people out there. I know Shelly. I mean, Shelly's listening. Shelly did so much as far as this was concerned, in helping people getting food to where it needed to be. And and Shelly has a village of people that work with her, and at the Cockatoo Ranch. And then we've got out on the West Coast, there are groups of people. There are people who are just willing to step up at a moment's notice. And I think that's an important thing to think about. I know, Melissa was donating toys. And it's really, I don't think any of us are, going to walk away millionaires anytime real soon, but we're all willing to do what we can. And I think part of that survival mode, Michelle, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of it is be willing to reach out for that help if you need it.
Absolutely.
Because it's there.
And don't ever be too proud to ask for help. And and like you said, I mean, Facebook's a great resource for us to have, or Instagram. And that's why I feel like it's so important to stay positive and have open communication with people, so that they can feel like they can reach out to you. I never want someone to feel that I'm not approachable, or I'm not willing to help them, and I feel like the avian community is getting there, and as we get to know each other. And where I live, it's not New York, and it's not Chicago. I mean, it's a little bitty city north of New Orleans, and kind of in the country, and where this storm hits, kind of in the country. So these people don't have the access to go to the National Bird Show, or to go to AFA. But you know what? If I could, or Parrot Festival even, but if I feel like if I could just get the word out that there's help out there, and there's people out there, and they meet each other through social media, Frank said you pay it forward, but it creates awareness. And I think there's a lot of awareness that needs to be created here. I mean, we still don't have an avian vet back yet. He won't be back till Monday. So a lot of people, don't even have access to medical care right now.
And Michelle, let me ask you this, and this is a tough question. I don't think the answer is going to be tough for you, but was there wasn't any, like, oh, well, you're a rescue, you're a breeder, you're a pet owner. I mean, it's a community, right? I mean, you guys helped whoever needed that help, and it didn't matter what aspect of aviculture they were involved in.
Absolutely not. I mean, to me, a bird is a bird is a bird. And if it's already here, whether a breeder had it or not, I mean, we had little babies that one of the breeders was feeding, and she ran out of formula. We were trying desperately to get her some formula, and Charlotte drove out here with a bucket of it, and I was able to get in touch with her to come out and get it. And I actually had some formula in the freezer. I was giving out formula that I had from when my babies were younger. But no, it doesn't matter. We all love birds, and whether they're a rescue bird or a brand new baby, we want to help them. And you take all of that out of the picture when it comes to a time like this. And you don't even think about it. I mean, that wasn't even anything that I had asked, honestly.
Yeah.
It was just, how many birds do you have? What kind of birds do you have? And what do you need? And what can I give you? And take some water. And, I mean, we would do this from the time I would get up in the morning. I would have people in my driveway waiting for food, and till it got dark at night. And, Georgia says you don't have to be a member of those things. I mean, sure, it'd be great because that helps our network grow if they do become members, but now's not the time to isolate them if they didn't. If anything, they realize that, people like that do reach out and help, and, whether it be big organizations or individual people, we all care. Sorry, I'm getting taken away here.
Oh, no, that's. So, Jack, I know you have gone through several hurricanes as well. And I was on Route 10 headed for New Orleans the night. I had reservations on Canal Street the night Katrina hit. So yeah, I learned pretty quickly what contraflow was. I'm from the Northeast. We don't have that. But Jack, I mean, when you talk to people about how to survive and how to be prepared, what do they need to hear?
So first, I think the information we're covering right now is great, but I think we're getting a little ahead because we're kind of already talking about recovery. And I want to make sure that anyone watching knows when you are dealing with being stuck smack in the middle of a natural disaster, it's not going to be fun. It is going to be incredibly stressful for you, for your animals. If you lose internet, cell service, if you lose your electricity, it gets very easy to feel completely overwhelmed, to feel completely alone in a situation like that. So I think in a natural disaster, the first thing you need to try to do is stay calm. Because if you let that anxiety get to you, if you get overwhelmed by those things, you're not going to be able to make the logical decisions that you need to do well. You're not going to be able to make the logical decisions that your birds need to do well. Everyone is going to be stressed. Everything is going to be chaotic, crazy. The world has turned upside down. Natural disasters are probably one of the best examples when Robin and I talk about the idea that enrichment is not always positive, because a natural disaster is probably one of the most enriching things your animal can encounter. They're definitely going to have a different impact or a different view on the world when they're going through that. They're going to be experiencing emotions and problems that they've never had in their life. So I think staying calm is probably the most important thing. I mean, Michelle, what do you think?
I agree, because you are the leader of your flock, and I'm the leader of my flock. And if they see me freaking out, I know they're gonna freak out. And I have to remain calm. And for me, when people always tend to evacuate to my house, right? So we have a generator, so they want to come here because the generator will be on. And you know, so now my birds have people they've never seen before sometimes coming into the home. So that's a stressful event for them. So if I don't, remain calm, they sense it, they feel it, they really do.
And I think too, Jack and I talk a lot about, the study of one, and that it's each bird's an individual. And I think that's something to keep in mind as well, while you're, staying as calm as you possibly can, but observing them. And you kind of, if you get that free moment to see how are they doing? How are they reacting? How's, maybe one bird, come on, we all know that cockatoo who's going to be dancing and screaming, singing, because this is amazing outside. There's all this noise and all this wind. So we all know that bird, and then there's the
Oliver.
bird was it, do you have one of those, Michelle?
Oh, I do. We have a video of her freaking out, and she's saying, "I'm about to freak out." Oh yeah, she was excited.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's all, they're all going to react differently. And we need to, Frank says the birds know when someone new shows up. They definitely do. And so
Yeah.
you being calm kind of sets the tone for the whole situation. And, your birds, don't try to calm them down. Let them do their thing. Give them, the enrichment that is safe. Give them their, whatever food you can that you've got, but you stay calm. And as we talk about reading body language and reading avian body language, they're going to do the same thing. So Susanna's having, images of you doing hurricane prep with Carl is what's happening.
So yes, and that's probably exactly the one she's thinking of. So Carl is my 1,400-pound dromedary camel, and he's actually a great example of a lot of the things that we talk about. That's part of why I talk about them so passionately. So working with your animals, building that reinforcement history, building that training history, training them for things like towel training, for restraint. Even if they are stressed out and they don't take to it as well in a disaster, they're not going to be as stressed by it as they normally would. And Carl is a great example of that, because he usually has a lot of opinions. He's a 1,400-pound camel. I mean, good luck telling him otherwise. But he can tell when something is off, and because of the relationship I built with him, he will work with me through times when he wouldn't necessarily work with someone else, or he's getting to be a little scared. He's getting to be a little stressed. He's still going to work with me better in that situation than he would otherwise. So part of your prep is working with your animals, training those behaviors, getting them conditioned to a variety of different stimuli.
Absolutely. So, all right, we've survived. And now it's not, Michelle, it wasn't over the next day, was it? What does
No, it's still
recovery
not.
look
It's tiring. It's long days. You're trying to one of the things I posted right after the storm was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And one was trying to make sure that, my food and shelter, that was the number one priority, and trying to, make sure your home is okay and your surroundings are okay. And, so you're trying to do that. You spend a lot of time, if you have to repair your roof, or if you've got a tree down, you're cleaning up, and, you're still dealing with no electricity and the water situation, and trying to accommodate your birds that are used to watching cartoons all day, and and in the air condition, and they're like a bunch of ungrateful toddlers screaming at you all day long because they don't have. It's not like it used to be, Mom. What's going on? But it recovery is a long time, and what are we now, 2 weeks? I don't even know what day it is some days. I had to ask my husband, what day is it? I don't know. We went to the grocery store yesterday. Yes, they're open, but they don't have a shipment of stuff, like the coffee creamer. I couldn't get coffee creamer. The fresh vegetables were gone. An example, my mother went to get her second COVID shot, and she couldn't even get that because all of the doses were, when the electricity went out, they had to throw them all away. So it's a lot of things that people don't think about. Butter, you name it, just it's not available. Gasoline, the lines for gas were miles and miles and miles that you would sit and have to wait. I have a job. I'm a nurse by trade, and I run a radiology practice. I still had physicians that I had to get to work. I had to pay them. So just the day-to-day operations, it's extremely stressful. And and then having people calling on you to to assist them, puts a stress on you as well. So recovery, it's I don't think this place will be back to normal for several months.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Jack a while back about after Katrina, and I did some consulting at the Audubon Zoo several months after Katrina, and everyone I met had a story. Everyone I met was suffering from some degree of PTSD. There was,
yes.
The whole city was still in that recovery mode. And I think, we need to be gentle with ourselves and gentle with our animals. That what does it look like now? So it's probably not going to go back to normal for a couple of months. And how do you create that new routine, if you will, so that things kind of fall into place again?
Yeah, for me, one of the important things to do when trying to deal with that recovery, when trying to figure out how to take care of my animals as things are different and I am tired and stressed and it feels like everything's going wrong. I like to make a list of what I need to get done for my animals to get through the day. One, it gives me a feeling of accomplishment as I check off things. And two, I think it's really important to remember that when you are stressed, when you're exhausted, you're not going to have the same focus that you normally would. So even things that I normally wouldn't put on a list, I would put on a list. So when we were recovering from Hurricane Harvey, I had to write down to eat lunch because otherwise I wouldn't, because there was just so much to do, so much to try to take care of the animals, to try to get things back together. I mean, it is overwhelming. So, I mean, Michelle, I think the fact that you're able to talk to us about this tonight, this close to the situation, is, I applaud you because I don't know that I would have been able to.
We went through Hurricane Katrina, and at the
Mhm.
time I was working in the hospital. So yeah, I know I've got PTSD definitely from that. Just the thoughts of, and but it taught me what I needed to have to be prepared for what happened 2 weeks ago. And like you're saying, for recovery in your birds, one of the things that I try to do is focus on something that is familiar to them too. And so that kind of helps them. Like, one of the things they love to do is sing and dance, and so I play music, and even if I can't go in there for an hour and play, even if it's like at 15-minute intervals, I'll go in and I'll bring them something that is familiar to them, whether it be a song that we always sing or play. And I think that helps them as well, because
Mhm.
it's not constant change. It's something that is a little familiar. And you know what, they go to bed early, 6 o'clock, the lights are out, and that's a little bit of consistency for them, that they're not still caught up in all of the chaos. Because if I let them stay up late while everybody was still active and doing things, I mean, they would be more grumpy than they are right now, and ones that don't normally bite may bite because they're freaked out. So you can't take that personal either, because it happens.
Yeah, and
one thing
go ahead, Jack.
one thing I wanted to point out, because to me this is a very personal issue. If things do go wrong, don't hold yourself accountable. Don't be ashamed if things go wrong. Because I've talked to people about this. I actually lost my female eclectus parrot during Hurricane Harvey, when over the course of 24 hours, we went from a category 2 hurricane is supposed to hit a different part of the state to, it looped around. It's a category 4 hurricane that dropped several feet of water in the course of a day. Natural disasters are called that for a reason. They are absolutely disastrous. I think there's nothing wrong with recognizing things are going to be out of your control. Like we've talked about throughout this entire session, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. I think seeing the photos that you're able to provide of all the people from across the country who are able to provide you with supplies, to me, that's really heartening, because it shows that the avian community does care so much about each other and will help to provide for each other. So if you find yourself in that situation, don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't hold yourself accountable if things go wrong, because you can't control every aspect of everything that happens in a disaster.
No, you can't. I
No.
mean, you've got to do the best you can do, and try to survive. That's what it's called, survival. And you can. And one of the things too, we talk about social media is don't judge these people that did anything and everything they could just to make it to the next day.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's not going to be that perfect world,
No, absolutely not.
And to try to strive for that, okay, go ahead, but don't beat yourself up if it's not. And really, you do the best you can, you make it through every single day, and you kind of look forward to when things go back to normal, but it may be a different normal. I mean, I think we've all learned, if we've learned anything from this past year, we've all kind of learned that you need to adapt a little bit, and life isn't always going to be the same. But I think if we can, those little moments of normal, those little moments of, the dancing and the singing, Michelle, or, that favorite toy, if you can somehow get that favorite toy in there, or, and it's good for your soul as well, I think, too, to spend those 5 minutes, just hanging out with your birds, and grab those moments, but don't be upset when it doesn't always go right.
Well, even in when we're not in the middle of a disaster, things don't go right. We can't live that fairy tale life of having birds and we all look like Cinderella as much as we'd want to, right? I mean, shit happens, right? Excuse me, I don't know if I could say that, but it does, and just bleep me out on that one. I'm sorry, but it's not perfect, and I think as bird owners, we learn to adapt. We're very good at adaptability, I think, and we're a special group of people.
And Shelley says animals heal us, and I think, and Susanna mentioned those restorative moments to get through the other stuff. Our animals are also very resilient, and I think we can use that too. They're gonna bounce back. And they offer that to us, I think. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. It's not just us making them feel better, it's them making us feel better as well. So it's a lot.
Well, and I think So Georgia just commented that the only way to do something wrong is to do nothing. And I think
Yes.
that's a really important thing to focus on, because you know what, when you're stressed, when you're exhausted, maybe you will make decisions that in hindsight, oh, things might have been better if I had done this differently, if I had done that differently. And I will tell you all right now, having kept animals professionally for almost tricked me into telling you how many years. Almost got me. I'm not telling you that. For a while, every time I face a disaster, every time I face something going wrong, I do always like to reflect and see what could have been done differently, what could I have changed. And I know that I can't, and I know that I did everything as best I could in that instance. But I think reflecting back is also a way that I can ensure that the next animals that I'm taking care of, or the next disaster that I face, that I am better prepared to deal with that in that situation as well. So don't hold yourself accountable, but definitely learn from your experiences.
Mhm.
Oh, I
Absolutely.
definitely think we grow. And that's one of the things that I was during the storm and after the storm and during this recovery period. I've been jotting down things that, oh, I need to get this, or maybe I should remind myself to do certain things that at the time you don't think about it, and then as it happens, you say next time I won't forget that.
Yeah, it's true. So, final words of wisdom, Michelle, for people who are listening.
You can never be over prepared. Just when you think you're prepared, you won't be, because things happen. And always reach out to your network of friends, and your I call you guys my avian family, um, because you're going to need them. Don't be too proud to do that. Um, love your babies, appreciate every moment you have with them, and do your best during this time. Just try to be as prepared as possible, and pray.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's like Jack said, it's amazing that you're able to be with us, after such a short time. And we really, really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And if anybody out there hasn't checked out Royal Avian Specialties or royalavian.com, you definitely need to. Although with FedEx and UPS, it might be a little bit longer. Michelle, is that than
No,
normal?
we're getting. I feel like everything's coming. All the bills are coming first, not the goodies. But no, I saw a FedEx truck today and a UPS truck delivery, so we are getting mail now, but it took a little while. So I appreciate this hour of normalcy that I've had with you guys in my life over the past 2 weeks. This has been refreshing. Um, like I said, I'm still worn out and tired, so I may be talking in circles. But I love you guys, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. So every week we have a trivia question. Jack, do we have a trivia question this week?
We do. This one is a very, very important thing for you to do during a disaster. What is the most important thing to do during a disaster? So if you guys want to go ahead, leave a comment with what that is. Our handy man behind the camera, Nick, will go ahead and figure out, based on timestamp, who is the winner of that question. But yeah, this was a really important question because, as Robin and I were talking, and we were talking about the different types of disasters, and I realized when somebody said something about your disaster in Texas, my first thought is, which one? Because we froze in February, and hurricanes and flooding, and oh, we get sporadic tornadoes too. And yeah, it's just a lot. So Nick, is that our winner? Who who was the first one to answer the question correctly?
For the exact answer we were looking for, it's Julie Silken.
All right,
Okay.
Julie. So Julie, I'm not sure if you have one yet or not. The prize for this week was a Leather Elves emergency preparedness kit. If you have one, we can negotiate. Just get in touch with me. And do we have anybody that it's their first time listening? Can you throw me up a hello or a hi? And Frank, that is a good point. We need to pray for the families of 9/11. It has been 20 years tomorrow. So thank you for reminding us to note that. It seems like yesterday. And it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. So anybody out there? So Susan, this is your first time with us. Welcome. Susan, if you are interested, Iris Lambert, who is a regular listener, won an hour consult, an enrichment consult with Jack and I, and she has donated that back to the Flock Talk group. So, Susan, if you're interested in a 1 hour enrichment consult with Jack and I, message me and we can set that up. So, thank you for listening, and we hopefully will have you back again. All right. So, this has been an amazing. Usually, I watch the time and I'm like, oh well, we've got another 20. This just flew by, Michelle, and thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences with us. And everybody out there, we've all been through. So, most of us have been through some kind of disaster or another. And if you haven't, just count your lucky stars, and hopefully you never have to. But be prepared anyway. So, Jack, do you have any final words?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of really important information for people in today's session. I definitely hope they're able to see the session before they need the information so that they can develop their plan. And make sure that your plan is specially tailored for your particular needs, because obviously the needs for a hurricane are not going to be the same as Robin is going to have to prepare for blizzards. Nick in California would have to prepare to evacuate for forest fires. So I think it's really, really important that you plan accordingly. I'm really happy we were able to cover tonight's topic because I think it's a really important topic. I have no problem admitting that for me, this can actually be a fairly difficult topic to discuss. But I think it's really important for people to have the information. And again, as Georgia pointed out, we've mentioned this throughout the entire thing, but the American Federation of Aviculture and the National Parrot Rescue and Preservation Foundation are both available. So if you are still in a position of needing assistance, either now from this disaster or moving forward, if there is another disaster and you watch this video, then please reach out to either of those organizations. Both of them they have budgeted for assisting during disasters. And if they don't currently have money budgeted for assisting during a particular disaster, they will find it, because taking care of the birds, taking care of bird owners is paramount to those organizations. So that is what we're all striving to do. I think it's so nice that we've embraced this avian community that we have, and it can be so incredibly helpful. So I did just want to again highlight those points because I think they're really, really important. And again, I can't say this enough because I know it can seem embarrassing in a disaster, don't be afraid to ask for help. Please do not be afraid to ask for help. Everyone will be ready to help you.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, yeah, it is an emotional topic, and there were several times tonight when it was maybe a little bit difficult, and I want to thank you guys both for sharing experiences. And next week we're going to talk about seasonal produce. And just because it's the fall in the Northeast doesn't mean that everybody gets the cool pumpkins and that kind of stuff. But we're going to talk about all different seasons, and we're going to talk about what you can do with that produce, some cool enrichment ideas, and some different things you can do with what's available. Yes, Jack?
Michelle, I hope you have produce for that and we're not just rubbing it in your face.
Oh, yeah.
I thought of that as I was reading it. I'm like, unless you're dealing with the recovery phase of Hurricane Ida, and you might not have seasonal produce.
Well,
But
guess
we'll
we do.
archive it, Michelle, and then you can use it later.
We actually do have pumpkins. I saw it at the store the other day. So there we go.
All right, good deal. All right, well, you guys all stay safe this week. And again, thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing and commenting and letting us know you're out there. We appreciate it, and we really appreciate being part of this bigger avian community. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.